Tom Morello.
Hello.
Is coming in. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on?
How are you?
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks.
How are you doing, man?
I'm all right. Here, let me sidle up. What's going on, people?
Jim is extremely excited to talk to you primarily about Kiss and Black Sabbath.
Well, Kiss, because you inducted. I wanted to go to that.
About both of them.
I almost canceled a high-paying gig to go to that, and I couldn't.
To go to what?
To the induction, Kiss's induction, which was at the Barclays Center, which you were a part of.
I was. It was a epic night.
Did you get a picture with all four of them?
I did. I got a couple pictures of all four of them. Yeah.
You understand that it's been years. Well, what year was that?
That was like 3 years ago, maybe. Three or 4 years ago. Yeah, something like that.
Literally, not only we've had members of Kiss, Gene has been in studio, and Jim has brought it up to him. Hey, if I'd gone to that, if I'd canceled my gig, I couldn't have gotten a picture with the four of you, right? And Gene is like, of course you could have.
Yeah.
And Jim, every time, because I
you.
made the wrong
It literally
choice.
is a knife in my fucking stomach. I'm so stupid. How did you get that? How did they come to ask you?
They did not. They did not ask me. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I was a harsh critic of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and because it didn't include many of my favorite bands, especially in the hard rock and metal genre.
Sabbath took years.
And to John Landau's credit, who's Bruce Springsteen's manager, one of the guys that runs it, I was touring with Bruce Springsteen, and I was just laying into John every day about the illegitimacy of the hall based on the exclusion of these acts. And to his credit, he put me in the room and let me be on the panel that helps decide the ballot. And I went in there and told them they were screwing up. And if you want to have, because like if you're a baseball player, a kid, you're a baseball player, your great dream would be to one day be in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Sure.
If you do all the right things. If you're a kid and you're like play rock and roll guitar, you hate the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because it doesn't have any of your favorite bands in it.
Right.
It's like, that ain't right.
Right.
And to their credit, they heard my words, and since then, Rush and Kiss and Stevie Ray Vaughan, a number of our other artists, which had previously been excluded, are now in the hall. So,
does it become difficult when you're an outward critic of something like that? Because you've been an outward critic of everything that you are critical of all your life.
Sure.
But when it changes, right? And you are then kind of responsible for telling your fan base, like, no, it's cool now.
Yeah.
Is it difficult?
I'm not telling people can decide whether it's cool or not. I just thought that I like the idea of there being a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and of having something to aspire to that's like that. And so it needed, in my view, it just needed to be steered so that it was a more legitimate Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
You didn't
which
think
now I think it is. It is more. You can't, even the harshest metal critics, yes, I want Motorhead and Judas Priest and Iron Maiden to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Dio.
Yeah, sure. I want them all to be in, dude. You don't have to. But at least those bands are now part of the conversation, whereas they
took Sabbath 10 years to get in, which
crazy.
That's what really turned me on. It took Black Sabbath. I think it was their final. Ozzy said, "Take us off the ballot." Enough.
Yeah.
So how did you end up going from being in that seat to being the guy who inducted Kiss?
Well, I mean, I made a passionate speech for Kiss in the room, and then they, for the first time, got on the ballot, and they easily got in once they were on the ballot. And people that heard my speech in the room thought that probably I should be the guy inducting them.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought the band picked you.
They just said, say some of that stuff. I'm like, I know.
The speech you did for us,
I can
do
say,
it for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, the band doesn't pick you. I thought the band.
I think that the band can have something to do with it, but it was pretty obvious. And, the speech was kind of already written. So
yeah. At what point so you've been a Kiss fan all your life? Obviously.
Yeah, it was my first favorite band, my first concert, all that.
When did you meet them for the first time?
96, when they were doing the rehearsals for the reunion tour. Rage Against the Machine and Kiss, who people didn't know had reformed, were rehearsing in the same place, and I heard them down the hallway, and I heard like Paul Stanley singing "Come On and Love Me," and I'm like, I think that's Paul Stanley singing "Come On and Love Me." Now I'm like, so I just waited in the hall. I'm like, holy crap, it's all of them. So that was.
And you knew before they even announced it.
Oh yeah, for months. I mean, they were there. I saw them every day.
Where'd you see them for the first? I saw them when I was a kid. I think Cheap Trick was opening for them. It was probably '79 at the Garden.
I saw them in '77 at the Chicago Stadium.
Did you?
It was the Rock and Roll Over tour.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when you get into especially when you start, when Rage starts to really pick up and become a really relevant band, right? And you start to meet your heroes. Yeah. Do you have to try to play it cool and be like, "Hey, we're peers," or do you just allow yourself to fanboy out?
I'm a super fan, and I've fanned on every. Eventually you get over the fan. Like I ran into Gene at the airport the other day. It's kind of like, "What's up, bro?" Like I'm like,
because you know him.
Yeah. But I've I had the great opportunity to meet a lot of my record collection, as a kid, and at first I give them their due, and I'm not trying to be cool about it. I'm still a fan, whether it was Rob Halford or whether it was Joe Strummer or Chuck D, who I play in a band with now. They've been important to me. So.
Are you surprised when they know you? Like when somebody you grew up loving is a fan of what you do?
I got to tell you, there was one moment where I was, different people have said very, nice things through the years, but I was at a Judas Priest show in San Bernardino, and I was just standing in the hallway, waiting to go watch them on stage, and the band's coming down, and KK Downing goes, "That's Tom Morello." I was like, "Oh my gosh, KK Downing knows my name and seems excited."
Yeah, that never gets old.
Well, that was pretty exciting for me. Pretty exciting. Which brings us to why we're here, which is I have a record out. Can we talk about that? Yeah. I will happily talk metal all day long, but I want to at least let your listeners know what all of this metal, all of my Kiss speeches and all of my metal playing, and KK Downing's love for me has led to this moment and this.
The Atlas Underground, it's a new solo album, and it's out next Friday, the 12th, and I guess I'm going to guess iTunes and stuff, or is it actually coming out
Spotify,
as a record?
It's coming out as every record. It's vinyl, it's CD, it's everywhere where streaming services, everywhere where everything is now. And throughout my career, I've collaborated with countless people, whether it's in my bands, Rage Against the Machine, Audioslave, Prophets of Rage, the Bruce Springsteen, the E Street Band, and a myriad of other collaborations. But this record is a solo record, but it's a collaborative record. I had a very lofty ambition to create a new genre of rock and roll music, something that has all of the big riffing, Sabbath-esque power of what I like to do, but melding it with huge EDM drops and some of the electronic wizardry of 2018. And so the idea was to take, in a way, to kind of be a Trojan horse. And in the same way that Hendrix, I describe this record as the Hendrix of now, not because it has blues, 10-minute long blues solos, but one of the things that Hendrix did was he exposed an entire generation to otherworldly guitar playing because he had songs on the radio. It wasn't just that he dressed cool and lit his guitar on fire. It was Foxy Lady and Crosstown Traffic and Wind Cries Mary. The people were in the midst of all these kind of jangly songs on the radio, there was this one, some of the craziest shit you ever heard. That's part of the idea with this record, and whether it's collaborations with Wu-Tang Clan, Big Boy, Killer Mike, Marcus Mumford, Portugal the Man, Knife Party, Bass Nectar. There's from the world of hip-hop, EDM, and punk, Rise Against, Steve Aoki. I found this cast of characters to help me make a record that is really like this. It's a rock and roll version for 2018.
So you've never found yourself in a position where you're kind of shying away from genres, meaning this is not what I do. I don't understand. No, we stick to what we do. It seems like you've really been a collaborative.
Yeah, and I've always been open-minded. From the I grew up loving metal, and then when my friends and I found punk rock music, all the rest of them left metal alone. Because now you don't like metal anymore. Because I was like, I can like Motley Crue and The Clash at the same time.
Right.
And then hip hop, that was very divisive as well. I loved NWA and Public Enemy and never left that behind.
Fat Boys?
A little less so, and it's showing our age that we know what that is.
They were good.
Yeah. They were good. They were no Public Enemy. They were good. They had that one video. I forget what the song was pretty amusing. But I was never a fan of EDM music, or at least what my understanding of it was, till a metal friend of mine turned me onto a group called Knife Party, and I listened to Knife Party. I'm like, that's kicking my ass like a great Rage Against the Machine song. Mm-hmm. It had the heaviness and the tension and the release and the aggression. I was like, okay, hold on. I want to find out more about that end of the spectrum. And what if we replace their synthesizers with my electric guitar, but sort of go through their lens? And I thought there's no music like that. And to me, this is my 17th studio record that I've made, and it's super exciting to me to push myself as an artist and as a guitarist.
Do you look back at any of your stuff and go oh, I don't like that? As a stand-up, I look back at a lot of my jokes. I'm like, ugh.
I don't listen back to it. I don't listen back. I mean, I'm not putting on the. I just don't look for it.
Will it be, if
it comes on the radio or something, I'll check it out and sort of give my thoughts. But I got two young boys, and I've never exposed them to Rage Against the Machine. Like they like Metallica, they like the Hamilton sound, they like all this stuff. And so one day we're driving to school, and Sleep Now in the Fire comes on the radio, and I don't say a word. I kind of turn it up a little bit and sort of watching in the rearview mirror, and the song is, I'm like, so what'd you guys think of that? And my oldest son goes, he's 8. He goes, Dad, that was good. What was that? I'm like, I'm not sure.
You didn't tell him.
No.
You didn't tell him. That's it, because you didn't want that moment to just keep the moment.
Let that sit.
Were you nervous though when they're listening to it? Like, oh,
no, I don't care if they
didn't care.
It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't really matter.
Do you go through moments where you're like, I wish we could get Rage back together and go on that, or are you happy?
If I had my druthers, Rage Against the Machine would have made a record every 6 months from 1992 till now.
Right.
That's not what it is. So
right.
If Rage Against the Machine show breaks out, count me in.
I saw you guys at Rock the Bells when you came back for the first time and had it. It was such an amazing show, but like I went there to see you, and then I had a full panic attack the moment you guys came on, and I had to fist fight my way out of 60,000 people.
Yeah.
It was the most tight my chest has ever been.
Yeah, it's an intense crowd that band draws.
But you guys all get along still?
Yeah, get along. Don't play shows, but we get along. Yeah.
What do you think it is about that band specifically? Like we talk about it on the show, that the kind of rock rap genre is looked at it almost like, I don't want to. People goof on it, right?
Yeah.
And because
it's awful,
right?
Okay, 98 point non-Rage Against the Machine percent of it.
Okay, good. We're on the same page. All right, good.
Limp Bizkit though.
Yeah.
There's some hot riffs in that. That band has some hot riffs.
But Rage, for some reason, completely maintains. You put Rage on now. Yeah. I mean, the same way Audioslave does, the same way all your bands do, I guess. Maybe it's you. But
you might be honest.
But there's nothing about Rage that feels dated. Like you said, when you see them, it doesn't feel like, it's a reunion act. It's this sounds so 90s. It still feels relevant, not just in the lyrics, but in the music and everything.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue with that.
What do you think? Why do you think that is?
I mean, in part, it's like why it was made. Like that was a band that made music. We put that band together with absolutely zero commercial ambition. Like it was a neo-socialist, multi-ethnic punk metal rap band. That there was none of that on the radio, none of it playing the Hollywood clubs. It was just like we just made music. We never thought we'd be able to book a club gig. Right. Like there was no club for that. And then much to our surprise, it connected with people around the world. And I think it was just made so authentically, and it stands apart in that regard. And I've tried really. I made one record before Rage Against the Machine with this other band called Lockup, and in that band we did everything that everybody told us to do, and the A&R guy and the manager and the record company, and we were just trying to be record makers and rock star, and the record didn't sound very good, and we got dropped, and I was. What
was the name of the record?
It had perhaps the worst name of any record released by People. It was called Something Bitchin' This Way Comes.
Oh my God!
No. Yes.
Did you? But there was no apostrophe after the end.
Of course there was an apostrophe. I said it was the worst name of the record. I didn't say it was the top 10 worst names of records. And so when that band got dropped, they gave us $1,000 to split between 4 guys as like your severance pay. And I thought I had my grab at the brass ring. I'm done. I'm not going to be a record maker or a rock star. So I made a solemn vow. I remember.
So nothing bitchin' that way came?
Nothing, very little bitchin' that way.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
So wait, did any of those guys go on to do anything else, or they all get into the business?
one guy made a couple records after that, a band called Extra Fancy on Atlantic, but it was. I was done, so I made a solemn vow. I remember the band breaking up. I was sitting in my living room in my apartment in West Hollywood, and I said, "Well, if I'm not going to make records, I'm going to vow to myself to never play another note of music that I don't believe in, and I'm just going to play music that I love, and that's it." And
worked out pretty well.
That's it. Yeah, and then the first Rage record was those ideas that I didn't expect anyone to like except for me and my friends. And from that record to this record, from the second record to the 17th record, that's what I've been doing. And whether it was with Rage or with Chris Cornell and Audioslave, or whether it was with my Night Watchman records, which were kind of more the folk Americana vibe, or with this Atlas Underground record, it's unapologetic. It's uncompromising. It's exactly what I want it to be. I hope people love it. If they don't, that's fine. That's
so you
fine
don't look back at anything and go like, wow, I wish I had done it like this, because you're doing what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nothing.
Did you know Chris was depressed? I guess you did, right?
I wouldn't define it like that. I mean, he had demons, is the way that I would describe it, and he was able to harness those demons to make some of the greatest rock and roll that anybody ever made. Without those demons, he isn't that guy, singer and lyricist. And so, fortunately, if there's any silver lining to that horrible dark cloud, it's that we get to enjoy that music forever that he suffered to make.
Right, so it's like the thing that makes you great is also the thing that eventually fucks you up.
Yeah.
Are you surprised at how much sort of how mainstream political rebellion has become? Like, I mean, not only in the sense that everybody, like Trump being the president, that's a normal mainstream conversation now, but you literally have Barack Obama getting behind a socialist candidate now. It's kind of wild based on the fact that like Rage was so left of center over here that now it's starting to
I think that's one of the reasons why in culture it's important to move the goalposts, and show people that there's, like, I remember when I listened to the Public Enemy in the class, I grew up in a very, very conservative suburb of Chicago, and the ideas that were on those records felt true to me, and they felt like very different from what my teachers were saying and what the newscasters were saying. And it made me realize that there's ideas beyond the ones that have been spoon-fed me my whole life. And I think Rage Against the Machine provided that for a global audience. It's like, here's a different set of ideas that the four of us are not alone in believing this. Like our experience and the stuff we've read and the things that we've lived, there's millions of other people that feel this way, but nobody else has put this on a record. And so here it is, here's a different mirror to hold up to your life and your society.
And it's amazing that a lot of the guys you're collaborating with on the solo album all have similar stories where they've all got stuff to say. And
that's right.
Killer Mike has become a huge figure in
like
politics.
advocate. And the thematic thread that runs through this Atlas Underground record is social justice ghost stories. And when you're working, it's like 20 collaborators on this record. I wanted there to be the musical thread of kind of creating this new alloy of rock and roll and hard EDM, and the lyrical thread of telling the stories of like fallen heroes and martyrs from the past to inform the struggles of the present, and with the hope that it lights a fire under an audience to help shape a more just and humane future.